Hello, welcome everyone. Hello and welcome. Hello, hello, hello. Can we? Okay. Welcome to today's live session. If you can hear me, please drop that. If if you can hear me, please drop the heart emoji. Oh, okay, great. Welcome. So today's live session is going to be interactive. So I implore you all to. Okay, audio is low. Uh, Let me see to that. Okay, let me know about now. How is the audio now? Is it okay? If you can hear me, if the audio is okay now, please let me know so we can get to today's topic. Okay. Uh, Ngozi Onyema, is the audio still low or you can hear me clearer now? Okay, okay. Sahib said it's better right now. Okay, that's great. So like I said, today's session is quite interactive, and I implore you all to drop your questions in the comment section because it's actually very important. So if you have any question, you can actually drop it in the comment section so that we can take a look at it and answer it. Okay. If you are also on your system, it will be okay if you can, you know, open up your Figma side by side. So if you have any question while I'm answering it, you can as well try things out yourself. Although this video will still be here for after this live for every other person to view. So, but it's important if you are here right now. One of the benefits is that you get to ask questions, get some clarifications on things you still don't understand yet. So, yeah. Okay, Ngozi Onyema said it's okay now. Okay, that's awesome. Um, so, it's been a week of learning now. So if you are here, let me hear how. Just type out how it's been for you within this 1 week of learning. How has the learning experience been? Uh, is it good? Is it okay? Are you catching up, or it's not working out for you pretty much? Let me know in the comment section. So, and also from next week, our next stream is going to be from Google Meet. So those of us on guided assistance will be joining me live on Google Meet so that you get to also ask your question live. But for today, we are going to be using the chat section to answer all the questions. Evening, Nuruddin. It's very life changing. So that's amazing. That's amazing one from Miss Aisha Shaibu. Thanks, thanks very much. Special thanks to our supporters, Terra Skills NG, and the GS Foundation. So they made this possible, and we are also grateful they came on board to partner with us on this first edition of the free UIUX Bootcamp by Designgate Academy. Okay, I'm just going to run through some of the things, some of the topic we covered. Welcome, Vixen Designs. Welcome. Uh, so in the next 5 minutes, we're going to start. But I just want us to drop some questions so that we can answer them once we start. Right? Instead of taking the questions when we've started already, we can actually take the questions now. And once we start answering some of those questions. So if you have any question, I would really appreciate if you can drop it in the comment section so that we can take a look at it. The learning experience is great for me. I understand auto layout better now. Thank you. Amazing. That's good. Blessing Amakiri. Good evening, Shinayomi John. Good evening. Welcome. So we are still on taking questions. So everything you've been learning so far, okay? So if you have any questions, you can drop them. Chiebuka, the lessons are detailed and understandable. Thank you very much. We tried our best to make sure it is beginner friendly so everyone can catch up. And also, if you're already learning Figma, we try to make sure that you get a little bit more clarification and, you know, John, the audio is a bit low. Is it from my? I think someone have complained about that already. Let me see. Let me check from here. Trying to make the audio a little bit more. Okay. So how about now, John? John, can you hear? Hello, John. The audio is slow. Okay. What is the difference between using auto layout and what's the difference between using auto layout? Okay, it has gone very low again. Okay, let me increase that. Okay, what about now, Caleb? Is it still low? The audio is low. Let's see. How about now? Okay, what about now, Caleb? Is it still low? The audio is low. Let's see. How about now? I think the audio is quite okay from my end. Okay. Um, let's see. Hello. Okay. Uh, I think if the audio is low from your end, just let me know so I can see if I can adjust the audio from here. But I think from my end is quite loud. Okay, it's better now. Okay, okay. John, can you hear me now? So someone asked, what's the difference between auto layout and grouping elements? Okay, we are going to take that question. Okay, so if you have any other questions, please drop them now. So is there a case where me using group selection is better than auto layout? Definitely there are cases where you want to use group instead of auto layout. Okay. Um, Okay, it's perfect now. Okay, great. The audio is better now. Okay, amazing, awesome. Okay, so I'm trying to take questions. We just have like 1 minute, 1 minute to take questions, and after that, we are going to proceed with the revision and clarification on some certain things based on the questions you've dropped, right? So today is basically to ask any question that you might have that you've not actually dropped on Telegram, or maybe you need more clarification based on what we've done so far. That's the first part, based on what we've done so far. And on the second part, we understand that some learners might take time to, practice more things. And when practicing, they might discover new issues, right? So we'll take the second part to answer some of those issues, but we want to make sure that it falls within the lessons we've covered so far, so we don't go too much ahead of us, right? Yeah. So let's go directly to what we have for today. So this is the first. These are the first. This is the first topic we took a look at the first day. We talked about overview of web and mobile technologies for designers. We took a look at what exactly is UI/UX design. We talked about introduction to Figma, and we made a simple Figma project cover. So basically, when you talk about UI/UX design, a lot of people tend to focus more on mobile apps, right? A lot of people tend to focus more on mobile apps, but then as a UI/UX designer, when you are developing solutions, it's important that you understand some of these platforms, right? Some of these technologies, so that you are actually able to design something that is usable, okay? It also enhances your knowledge of what you are trying to do, right? So basically, we talked about different concepts that a designer needs to understand when it comes to UI/UX design. One of those, we talked about responsive design, okay? We talked about mobile first design. We talked about progressive web apps. We talked about UI frameworks. We talked about mobile app development platforms, augmented reality, voice user interface, accessibility and inclusive design, data privacy and security. These are some of the things we took a look at. I don't know. I think that we've already read some of these articles, so I didn't want to make the presentation a little bit bulky, since it's an interactive session, and we are going to be having questions and answers, right? So that's why I didn't actually want to make this presentation too bulky by including all those topics. Okay. Okay. So this is more of a technical question. I will answer this in part 2, Mr. Chiebuka. I will answer this type of questions in part 2, right? That's part 2 is basically after this particular session. It's still the same time. So probably we'll start part 2 around 6:15 or 6:30, so that we can round up before 6:45 or 6:50, right? So questions that are not like directly related to the curriculum, I'll answer them in the second part of this live session. And like I said, for those of us on guided assistance, by next week's live, you'll be joining direct on Google Meet, so that you can actually ask your questions in audio, right? You can actually ask your questions and get answers live. Sir, make it bulky. They sum up sometimes aren't comprehensible. Okay, the write-up sometimes aren't. Okay, what I'll just do, I think I'll go in now. I'll just go in and take a look at the topics. And then, remember, I'm going to be a little bit fast because we are kind of rushing. Okay? So, this is the first one we did. Okay? Overview of web and mobile technologies for designers. So we took a look at some concepts every designer needs to understand, right? These are things you need to know as a designer. It's very, very important, okay? Because being a UI/UX designer is not just about, designing things on Figma. There are some things you need to understand so that it helps your design. When you understand some of these things, it helps your design, okay? We took a look at responsive design. We took a look at mobile first design, progressive web apps, user interface frameworks, mobile app development platform, augmented reality, voice, accessibility, data privacy. Now, let me take time to just go briefly on some of these things. Okay, different types of layout, we'll definitely take a look at that. Okay. So let me throw more light on this. So as a designer, you have to understand the concept of responsive design. This is a concept whereby designers create designs for multiple devices. Okay. So this is a situation whereby designers create a design for multiple devices. So let's assume you are working on a web app, and then that web app, you also want to be able to, open that web app on phone, or you are working on a website, right? You are working on a website, and you also want to be able to open that website on a phone, right? Now, the process of you designing that website to be able to adapt, to be able to resize properly when someone opens it on phone, that is basically what responsive design is talking about, right? And in the advanced section of our UI design, you are going to learn how to design responsively, so that when you are creating your design, you can also easily resize it for a mobile, right? And that is where AutoFrame shines. Remember, in the AutoFrame class, there is a feature we used called wrap, right? Although we didn't use it much, but in our advanced UI class, you are going to learn how to use that wrap feature to actually create layouts that are responsive to different device screen sizes. So that's basically what responsive design is talking about. Now, mobile first design, right? When you take a look at today's trend, you discover that a lot of people make use of their mobile phones more. Okay, so a lot of people make use of their mobile phones more than desktop and laptops. Just like in this session, a lot of you kept asking, can we do it on mobile? And we kept telling you, no, you can't do it on mobile. Not like the website is not accessible on mobile, but Figma on its own, you can't actually design on Figma, right? So that's basically when you are designing and someone is asking you, telling you to do mobile first design, that means you should consider mobile users first, right? But then there are things that don't work on mobile yet, okay? For instance, when you want to, basically as at now, you can only view your Figma designs on mobile. You really can't design on a mobile phone on Figma, right? So yeah, so that's mobile first design. Basically, it's a principle that you use in designing first for mobile before you expand to other screen sizes. So it's believed that when you cater for the mobile users first, right, when you are now expanding your design, you can now make it fit better and even add more features that can only be viewed on a desktop platform, right? So it's always easier to add things than to remove things. So when you are designing and you are using a mobile first approach, it allows you to streamline your features to the mobile platform first. Then if there are some extra features, when you are not doing your desktop version, you can include it there, right? So in different apps, you can actually see these things in play, okay? So that's mobile first design. Someone is asking, what is the difference between responsive design and adaptive design? Well, while they might look the same, they are not actually the same, okay? So responsive design, basically you have one design, right, that can adjust or resize to different screen sizes. But when it comes to adaptive design, you are actually targeting people's device in order to show them a different part of that particular design or of that particular product, right? So there are some websites you go to, when they see your device, right, there are some device you access it with and some features will not show up, right? That is actually intentional. It could be maybe due to technological difficulties, or it could also be some restraint, okay? So they will remove some features and then present the one that works best based on your device. So basically, Adaptive design makes use of device targeting. So you target the device, and based on that device, you present the information. Okay? If you open YouTube on your TV, you notice that it's going to look a little bit different than when you opened YouTube on your phone or on your laptop. It's going to be a little bit different, because when you open it on TV, there are some features that are quite unique to TV, because on TV you control it with remote. So your remote might actually have voice, voice assistance. So they have to adapt some of the interface and some of the features to make sure it works with the remote. With remote, you have to point and click, unlike your mouse or keyboard. So this is where the concept of adaptive design comes in, right? It's a little bit different from responsive design, in the sense that basically on responsive design, you are making a design and then adjusting those designs using what you call CSS media queries based on the size of the screen, not the type of device. So in responsive design, you are targeting size of screens, but in adaptive design, you are targeting type of screens, type of devices. Okay, I hope that is clear. I will still take some questions and answer all those things later on. I can see a question here. What's the difference and examples of web apps? Okay, we'll take a look at all those things, right? So that's why these topics are important, so that it's very important you read through them and not just, think they are not important. They are very, very important. Then you have progressive web apps, right? So when you talk of so I don't know why I'm hearing I think I just need to close this. Let me see. Okay, I'm trying to disconnect some of these things so they don't distract us. Okay, great. So when you talk about web apps, right? When you talk about web applications, there are some web applications that are configured so that you can, access it on your phone as if it's a native app. These are those apps you kind of see that they can't function without the internet, right? So they are not native apps. Okay. You see why I actually... Okay, what I'm going to do now, because my colleague that is supposed to be taking this questions is actually not available right now. So I'm going to give us 2 more minutes to paste some of these questions so that we can focus on the revision. And after that, we can now come back to those questions. So I'm taking note of the questions. So in the next 2 minutes, if you have any questions, please drop it. And after the revision, we will now take time to answer those questions. Okay, I'm still with you guys, expecting your questions. Mr. I don't know, Omoni, Abimbola Omoni. I don't know if it's a Mr. or a Mrs. Okay, I think it's a Mrs. Abimbola Omoni, I hope you understand now. You were the one that asked for clarification between responsive design and adaptive design. So the major difference is responsive design targets screen sizes, right? While adaptive design, they target device type. So screen sizes, like laptop screens, they are wide. Tab screens, basically you have to target, anytime you are designing, there are 3 major screen sizes you target for. And that is laptops, tablets, and mobile phones, okay? But then you also discover that when you come to mobile phones, you even have different types of screens, same with laptop and same with tablets. But the standard is laptop, tablet, and phone. All right. But when it comes to adaptive design, you are targeting things like, maybe are you targeting a phone? Are you targeting a TV? You know, you have to determine the kind of device it is in order to show some features or hide some features. So as a UI UX designer, the importance of this is, as a UI UX designer, when working on features, you should be able to say, okay, this feature, the experience might not be so well on a mobile phone, right? So you can, okay, say, okay, this feature, we are going to use this feature on TVs, right? So basically that's what you have right there. Okay, since my question is from creating forms, okay, which we did last, okay, I think I've taken these questions, and I'll answer it. Okay, lay emphasis on the different types of button and when to use it. Okay. That's the importance of this live session. So it's very important. I implore you all not to always miss it. On my Figma account, I don't have access to past side strokes. Okay, I can assure you this is not the problem of village people. Your past your past side stroke is actually there, and I'm going to show you that. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to go back now. So let's pause some of the questions for now and actually listen to the explanation. Once it's time for question, I will also let you know that, okay, this is time for questions, so that you can drop the questions. My colleague is, like I said earlier, my colleague is not here to be picking out the questions for me to answer later, but he will definitely be joining us in our next live session. So again, progressive web apps, like I said, I implore you to make sure you read this content. And also what you can be doing henceforth, when you are reading some of these articles, anything you don't understand, don't assume, okay? Instead, you can write it down and you can research further. And then once you've researched a little bit during these live sessions, you can now come in with more questions. Okay, it's very important. Don't assume everything you are learning should be Figma. No, it's very important. For instance, when we talk about progressive web apps, these are apps that, you know, we have two types of, when it comes to apps, you have web apps and also native apps. Native apps are basically built directly for your phones, right? Mobile phones, right? These devices, they are more, you know, they are more native to the app. They can easily access cameras and do a lot of things like that. But when it comes to progressive web apps, basically they combine part of web and also mobile, okay? And we'll also take a look at some examples later on in the class. But now I'm just trying to run through some of these so that if you've forgotten something, you can actually ask questions. Then we also have user interface frameworks, right? So whatever you are designing, it's important to know that the design is going to be, you know, is going to be developed by an engineer. It could be a front-end engineer or a back-end engineer. Francis David, please drop the question again, but I've taken some questions which I will answer later. I don't know if it's yours, but I'm sure I've taken some questions and I'll answer them later on. Okay? So it's important for us to understand that anything we are designing, we're actually designing for a front-end engineer to develop, right? So it's important to be aware of some of the front-end UI frameworks out there. That is the framework your front-end engineer is going to use to code your design. Now, when you understand them, it will help you design better, right? Design something that can actually be achieved at a cost-effective price, right? You want to find a way of designing things so that it's not overly expensive, either to develop or making the server to serve so much resources, right? We'll take a look at these things under advanced UI design. For now, we are doing the basics. You just have to understand the basics, right? Once you go to the advanced part, you can now understand some technicalities behind what you are doing. For now, we just want you to be able to do things, okay? And the UI, advanced UI part, you will now understand the technicalities behind what you are doing, okay? Okay, I've seen a question from Odunayo, and we'll answer that. Okay. Let's proceed. So, like I said, we have mobile app platforms. You need to also understand. And right now, one of the biggest sector now, right now in design is the augmented and virtual reality. Okay, so you can actually take a look at all these things when you are done learning, right? These are different platforms you could design for. We also have voice user interface, right? And we have accessibility and inclusive design. We'll take a look at most of these things in depth in the advanced UI part, right? But for now, these are concepts you should understand. So I think if I keep doing this like this, we might not, we might spend a lot of time here. So, but it's important you take a look at these articles, right? Write down your questions or things you don't understand before the live session. So once you come to the live sessions, you drop your questions and we can actually answer them. And if possible, you can always drop your questions ahead of time, right? You drop your questions ahead of time so that we can answer it during the live session. So let's come back here. So we take a look at introduction to Figma. So we also took a look at platform design and system overview. Okay, platform design and system overview. I think I'm going to take a look at that one. Then I go back to Figma. Okay, so let's take a look at platform designs and system overview. These are important topics you should know. So as a UI UX designer, the major difference between UI UX designer is that UX designers design for both physical and digital products. So if you are studying UX design, okay, you are not only limited to digital product. Yes, Mr. Francis, I'll answer your question. I've taken it down. Okay. So as a UX designer, you are not only limited to digital products. When you understand UX design, you are also able to design for physical products. Remember, it's all about the experience, how it feels, right? That is UX design. So as a UX designers, you are able to design for both digital and physical products. But then as a UI designer, you are basically designing for digital products. So that's another one of the major difference between UI and UX design. So if you're a UX designer, don't just think it's all about mobile apps, right? A UX designer can actually design a chair better than a carpenter, because as a UX designer, you are not just looking at the structure of the chair, but you are looking at things like comfortability, posture, positioning. You are looking at a lot of things to come up with a particular design, right? So we'll take a look at all those things. So these are more differences between UX and UI design. So it's important to know that. So when it comes to, as a designer, you should know that there are different platforms, because a lot of people fail to understand this and only think that UI UX design is just for mobile app, that you need to work for a mobile app company. No, it's not only for mobile app company. There are different platforms. As a UI UX designer, you can also work for an automobile company, right? If you look at most cars now, you see their dashboard. They come with some designs, right? So a UI UX designer works in automobile as well. So it's not only in fintech and SaaS, right? So the need for UI UX designer is actually growing on a daily basis, because different platforms are coming up. Can we drop our questions on Telegram group? For right now, drop it here so I can see them. But subsequently, you can, I think very soon there will be forum coming to the website where people can drop and someone can answer questions there between yourselves, right? But yeah, if you are on guided access, you can drop in your questions right away. And if you need a call, for clarification, you can also schedule your call ahead of time. Oluwapelumi, please, I sent the screenshot of some of my questions. Well, Oluwapelumi, if you are on guided assistance, that question will definitely be answered, okay? But if you are not on guided assistance, you can try putting them here so that I can try my best to answer those questions, right? But definitely we'll take a look at it, we'll later on answer it, but it might not be instantly, okay? So we have the Google platform and we have the iOS platform. So when you are designing, it's very important you understand the platform you are designing for, because some of these platforms comes with different constraints. Okay, so some of this platform comes with different constraints. So it's important you have an idea about some of this platform before you start designing. So these are some of the things you need to understand when it comes to platform. Okay, we gave an example. The swipe gesture is fundamental to iOS and Android apps. However, it might not be intuitive on web platforms where mouse-driven actions like clicks and hover dominate. Okay, so these are things you're also supposed to know. And going down, yeah, user expectation behavior, platform specific guidelines, technical limitations and opportunities, adaptive and responsive design. Okay, so you can see everything is right here. Interaction models, feature availability. Then we now talked about web browsers. Sometimes you might be designing an app for a specific web browser. Okay, can you guys still hear me? If you can hear me, just drop the emoji icon, drop the heart icon if you can hear me. The heart emoji, if you can hear me, drop the heart emoji. Okay, great. Okay, great. Okay. So let's continue. So sometimes you might be designing for, like, there are some applications you see that are basically running on Chrome, right? They are just running like an emulator on Chrome. But then you download these applications and you think maybe they are running on an Android system or or they are running on an iOS platform, but basically they are running on Chrome. So when you want to design an application like that, it's important for you to understand, the device you are targeting, so that you know how to actually design for that particular system. As a UI/UX designer, to create the best experience, it's important you understand platforms as well, right? So this is why we have this document, right, this article right here for you to understand. We also have the mobile platforms. We also have desktop platforms. This one is one that most UI/UX designers, beginners, don't even consider, right? So, like I said, it's not always about the apps you see in your Play Store or iOS store. That is not what UI/UX design is all about, and that's not only the platforms you design for. When you go to the hospitals, they have solutions that hospitals use that run on desktop, right? So we have a lot of applications that are still meant for desktops. So these are also where you should take a look at opportunities you should take a look at. So there are desktop platforms where you need to understand how they work, right? So that you can design for those platforms. For instance, you have things like calculator for desktop, right? I'm just giving this as an example. But there are apps, you go to specific industry-specific apps that basically run on desktops and not on mobile, right? So you need to understand all these things. And on desktop, you have your Microsoft Windows, you have your Mac OS by Apple, and you have your Linux operating systems. So understanding some of these things will help you become a better designer. It is not a must, but it is something you need to, right? Because that is what will differentiate you from other design, especially when it comes to defending your design. Okay. Now we also have wearables, right? That's designing for, watch, also designing for maybe eyeglass, designing for different platform wearables basically. And we have watch OS and also Google Fitbits, right? Like I mentioned earlier, we also have smart TVs and console. So there are actually apps right now that are being designed and tailored for smart TV. So as a UI UX designer, a company, let's assume in Jumia now decide that, you know what, we want to be able to start selling our product on smart TVs. What they do is, already they know they can't just launch their website. They can't just convert their website to show on TVs, because if they do that, I'm not sure with remote someone is actually going to be moving left and right looking for a product on Jumia, because it's not an intuitive experience, right? But it makes more sense to swipe or scroll on your mobile to look for products. And on laptops you can use your mouse to scroll, right? But on TVs use remote, right? So you can't be using your remote to be moving left and right, up and down. So you have to create a new experience. So this is where UI UX people comes in. So a UX designer, comes in, do the research to even find out, are people interested in this, right? After doing the research, they come up with, a new way of browsing Jumia's website on TVs. They could decide, okay, you know what, this solution, let's deploy it on Alexa, or let's deploy it on Hey Google. Since they know that some TVs now come embedded with this solution, you find out that they'll just decide, okay, let's design it on those platforms. And also, how this is going to appear on screen is also going to be a little bit different, right? It's going to be a little bit different. You actually know exactly what to do when you have done your research as a UI UX designer. And then once you have done everything, you can now do the UI part. Let it also be what? Let it fit on that TV in a way that is clean and intuitive. Because when you talk about TV, you are not talking of 14 inches, you are not talking of 16 inches here. You are talking about TVs of 55 inches, 45 inches, 65, 75 inches, right? So you find out that you have actually big real estate to design things. So it's your ability to now maximize those screens. That's what they are looking for. And not just, they can't just translate their website to show on TV. So yeah, smart TVs and consoles are also platforms UI UX designers design for. You also have virtual reality and augmented reality, VR and AR, like I've mentioned earlier. Then you also have like voice, I just mentioned this one now, voice user interface. Now, the importance of this is, let's assume you are a UI UX designer and you are designing a solution. If you don't take in the platform into consideration first, the experience you are going to design really won't be intuitive enough, right? But when you understand the platforms that are available, there are some solutions that they might even call you and you just say, you know what, this should just be, we should just use Google Assistant for this feature and for this solution, right? Then you design the experience around that. For instance, let's assume you are called in. Okay, let me just give you an example of UI UX design. Let's assume you are called in a remote village to, let's say, design a solution for farmers. Then you went ahead to build a website and then ask farmers to connect. The website experience is very clean, the UI is very neat. But then the people you are designing this for are people in the villages, and most of them, let's assume the majority of the people you are designing the solutions for don't have smartphones. At that point, you begin to see that your solution will have an issue, because the people you are designing it for don't have access to that platform. So you have to go back to the drawing board to create a solution that works for these people. In fact, UX design is also it includes something like maybe saying you want to put someone in that village where the villagers can come and register their product while the person enter the details. It's part of UX design. Okay, you are looking at the overall experience, the overall feel, and not just the UI design. So UX is more of an in-depth part of understanding a product and understanding its users, right? Why the UI is the presentation part. So understanding platforms helps you create better UX experiences. And also as a UI designer, understanding platforms and devices helps you, create a more intuitive layout, right? For instance, when you visit Jumia, you are going to see up to, let's say, 6 products on a row. But if you decide to use that same layout for people that will view it on mobile, you will now discover that the shop now or buy now button will become too tiny. So what you can now do is to now say, okay, since I understand the platform, the mobile platform, what we are going to do is, while we have like 5 or 6 columns, 6 columns on desktop, when we come to the mobile version, we are going to redesign it with only 2 columns so that people can easily type or tap on buy now, right? And in some cases, you will now see that some people will be like, most of the time when we use 2 columns, we are not able to add much, especially because people don't want to scroll too much to look for something. And that's why you now see some platforms including a carousel or a slider where you begin to swipe left, okay? Swipe left and right to access as much product as possible, right? When you also go to some desktop apps, you find out that their search is not as visible, especially on apps that have a lot of product. Their search is not always as visible in the eyes like the mobile platform. On the mobile platform, in fact, once you launch any e-commerce app on a mobile platform, the search is very pronounced because they understand that you might not have the real estate of scrolling through a lot of things, but the best way you can do is to search. Okay? And I predict that very soon most e-commerce platform will replace their search with features like ChatGPT assistance, right? Whereby instead of coming to type in search, and in fact I worked on one of those solutions for a German company, I think early this year, and they've already launched, but I've not seen such in Nigeria yet. So basically, instead of searching for product manually, you replace that with a voice user interface, and you ask questions, and it does everything for you without you having to start searching through to find exactly what you want, because most of the time people don't even know what they want, right? But when asking questions, you have more liberty to ask questions. Okay, if you can hear me, please drop the heart emoji. Let me be sure that everyone is hearing me clearly. Let's proceed. Also, kiosk and interactive display. Yes, so this one also, UI UX designers also work in this particular platform. So yeah, so we also took a look at introduction to atomic design principle, which is actually a very important principle you need to understand as a designer, right? Okay, awesome. Atomic design principle is very important for you, right? When you design using the atomic design principles or guideline, you find out that it makes your work easier. It makes your work, even your life, easier, right? Because you build things from the smallest unit and you keep developing from there. If you take a look at some of the things, for instance, when we were designing the form, we didn't have to do the typing manually again. Instead, we selected the styles we created earlier. The same thing we've been doing with color, and the same thing we've been doing with spaces. That way, let's assume you want to change the color. We don't need to suffer much. We just need to go back to the main color, right, that we've created and converted to style. Then we change it there, and it affects everything, right? This is actually a better way to manage your designs. Unlike anytime you want to design a screen, you pick a color. Anytime you want to design a screen, you pick a color. Now, when those colors becomes much and you want to change things, it becomes quite difficult and cumbersome, right? So, anytime you want to design, it's very important for you to set up, at least, even if it's not a design system, a small style guide So we'll also take a look at the difference between design systems and style guide in a later class, okay? So even if you don't want to start with a design system, you can start with a small style guide. But this is 2023, and to be honest with you, everybody is using design systems, both free and paid design system, because people need to ship products fast. In fact, if you should get a job right now, the chances of you determining the color or the color you are going to use for your design or the sizes is very slim, because when you get a job right now, those companies already have design systems. So you are more focused on things like alignment, so you need to be careful you align things properly. You know, the spacing is very, very important, right? So basically, any company that that employs you now, the first thing they do is during your onboarding, you are presented with that company's design system. So they show you, sorry, they introduce you to their design system, and you start getting used to the design system, so that when you are designing, you are picking it. Now, let's assume it's a company without a design system. If the company is already existing, right, chances are they already have colors. So in 2023, there are things you shouldn't worry yourself about. And that is why most learners, most upcoming designers who don't have guidance, or they are just learning on their own, you see them struggling with things like font pairing, you see them struggling with things like color combinations. Meanwhile, these are easy things in 2023. You can see the plugin we used to generate variations of those colors. And those colors that are generated are using principles of material design or a particular design system, but we chose material design. This is a design system and a color principles that have been tested and approved by a multi-billion-dollar company, and that is Google. So you should be able to leverage on that. So let's assume a company calls you in to design for them. All they give you their company brand color. You don't need to start overthinking it. They give you their company brand color, you put it inside that plugin, and it generates all those shades for you. Then you head to design. Right? Instead of trying to spend God knows how many years to start bothering yourself about colors, especially as a designer. And at the end of the day, you and I know that that color will not be nice. Right? It's going to turn to color riot. But here is the thing. As you begin to learn, have more experiences, as you begin to learn with experience, you are going to discover some things. At the point where you get to that senior level, you will now be able, from the experience you've gathered, you can actually design color schemes, because you've actually seen a lot of examples of color schemes, right? You begin to learn the how behind. Example, if you should buy a car right now, will you be more focused on knowing how the car works or how to drive? Your focus at this moment will be learning how to drive. And right now in this bootcamp, this stage, we are teaching you how to drive and not what makes the car move. But over time, you can now get to learn what makes the car to move. Okay? So that's it. If you have questions, please drop them. Okay, let's proceed. So using atomic design principles, you also want to make sure you apply them in your designs, please. Because right now, we are working on that Designgate file that you created. But you can create a new file and start trying things out your own way, okay? But like I said, don't overthink it. Don't overdo. No go do past yourself. If not, you get tired and you leave this product design for us. This UIUX design job. You are going to leave it for us and look for another profession. But if you can take things slow and steady, right, you are going to become a great designer. So we are basically teaching you what you need to start driving, not how the combustion system works. That one, you have a lot of time to learn that one. If you want to start that one now, in 10 years, you still won't know how to drive. And most people that are employing entry-level designers, they are employing those people that can drive, not those people that understand how driving mechanism works. Okay? Are we going to learn about VR and AR design, sir? These are platform specific design. The design principles you are going to learn from here, you can translate them into learning AR and VR. Okay, we just have 3 months. It's a 3 months boot camp, not like a 6 years BSc, right? If we should over jam pack things in, you'll just be overloaded with information and you won't even know what to do by the end of 3 months. Yeah, someone said, well, how can we understand this platform? Well, it's about reading. But like I said, in this bootcamp, you learn all the basics you need. It's just about reading. All these platforms, they have their specific documentations and design guidelines, okay? So if you want to start designing in terms of AR, Facebook have their own AR Studio app. You download it and you learn about their systems, their constraints. Then you now transfer what you already know about colors, about fonts, about spacing systems. You transfer all those knowledge into AR design, right? The only difference now is when designing for AR and VR, you are now dealing with 3-dimensional space instead of just 2-dimensional space, right? So instead of looking, tapping or clicking, you are more focused on gestures, right? But please, at this stage, don't bother yourself about checking out AR and VR systems. No, you've not gotten to that stage. Don't bother. Understand how to design first. If you can't design for a mobile phone, one screen that is straight, is a VR and AR that is 3D. You now have to go back to start understanding concept of lights, right? Lightning, modeling, and all those things. So leave those ones first for now and understand this. In a year or 2, you can now dive into AR and VR platforms. Okay? Yeah. So I'll answer this one by Joanna Lawal. I'll answer this. Okay? Let me just wrap up this revision. Okay? Dunayo, yeah, I know, right? Okay, so we were able to set up colors and text styles, and we took a look at introduction to grid systems, responsive and adaptive design. Now, if you notice, some of these topics, we kept repeating them. Not like we don't know what to put. Instead, we want you to understand it as you keep going. If you notice, the way we explain this responsive and adaptive design in the first class is not the way we explained it in the second part. So it's very important. Please, I'm begging you all, right? It's very important you don't skip the articles. They have been specifically organized in a way that as you keep reading them, you keep getting more understanding. But if you skip one, it's, that's why you begin to ask questions. Chiebuka, the design industry is deep. This particular question is based on you. The design industry can only be deep if you decide to go inside when you are not supposed to go in. Right? So at this point, please, don't go deep. Stay on top. Once you've mastered the top part, before you start going deep. But if you are just starting and you enter the deep wells of the design industry, it's going to swallow you and you become overwhelmed and you get tired and eventually you sell your laptop and focus on POS or other jobs that are also bringing in money. But please, like I said, let's not overdo ourselves. If you can follow these tutorials step by step, don't overthink, don't overdo. Don't go to Twitter and see one design. You and I know you cannot do it, and you now decide to try it. And then in trying it, you become frustrated. You feel like I've not learned anything. You feel frustrated and you give up. Don't do that, okay? Don't do that, please. Follow these things step by step, right? You are just starting. This is 1 week of learning Figma. Now you went on Twitter and carry a design of someone that have been designing for 10 years. Then you drop it and you try 2-3 times and you be like, I'm not meant to be a designer. This is too tough. Please don't do that. Don't do that. Right? All the exercises we are going to be giving you, they are things you can do. And you can only get better when you keep doing things and growing gradually. Right? So we'll answer some of these things. Someone says, please, the material you have, blah, 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 blah. Can you do it again on this platform? Okay, great. We'll try it out. Right? We'll try it out. Okay. That's from Olua Belumi. Okay, great. Okay, so we took a look at things like margin, padding, spacing, text and icons, setting up our grid, spacing, importing icons. Another example again. Please, if you want to be a UI/UX designer, understand that at this point, you are not a graphic designer. Neither are you an iconographer, right? Neither are you a videographer or a 3D designer. Okay? So you need to understand this at this point. So things like icons, please, there are a lot of icon libraries that you can leverage from. Don't go and try redesigning icons on Figma at this stage. You will run away because only the pen tool will give you a run for your money and you will give up and run. Okay, so don't go and start trying to say, okay, I want to design icon. No, don't do that. Thank you. I know you are trying to, show off, but please go and use already made icons for your designs. Are you getting it? Go and use already made icons for your designs. You are not at this stage. You cannot do anything new. This is your first week of Figma design. Even if you've been learning Figma for 3 months, trust me, you cannot invent something, a new icon that we've not seen somewhere. Okay? So please, except maybe you used to be an illustrator. Okay? So let's say you've been designing icons using CorelDRAW or Illustrator, and then you want to now transfer that knowledge to Figma. That is doable. Let's assume you've been designing characters on Illustrator or on CorelDRAW, but now you want to try it out on a platform like Figma. That's understandable. But let's assume you are just entering design, right? Please leave icons. Once you need icon, you can choose icons from Google platform, right? They have a library for icons. You can go there, pick those icons, or you can use this one that I've shown you guys. Just use this one. In fact, maintain this icon. Don't stress yourself. When we get to advanced UI, I'm going to give you 3 sets of icons you can use all the time, and your designs will come out great. Plus, again, like I said, if you design your icons yourself, hope you know the front-end engineer that is going to implement it might want to use a system like Bootstrap, which your icons does not exist on. So what will now happen is that for them to achieve your design, they will manually have to upload your icons on their server, which will now be eating a lot of resources just because you decide to do icon. And at the end of the day, the icon is call icon that everybody already knows that's a telephone icon, right? Exactly, Precious Samuel, a step at a time. I'm begging you people today. I know why I'm saying all these things. Because some of the people I know that have given up on designs, there are people that chew more than they can bite. Okay, let's continue. So from there, we went to basic UI components. We went to overview of a button. Now, some of the reason why we explain this button as if it's a separate topic, you need to know exactly what button is. Some of the things people look at when designing button and some of the guidelines for button. And now that I've reached here, this button size, someone asked, must we stick to all the rules laid out on that Google material design about buttons? Now, the truth is, at this stage, please use those guidelines at this stage, okay? It will make your life easier. So your button, I don't want you guys to worry over what is not an issue at all, okay? Where you have to worry is coming. Where you have to worry when it comes to design, where you have to worry is common sense. It's not really Figma, designing things on Figma, or getting colors. These are not places you have to worry. Places you have to worry are when it comes to common sense, okay? And that is in UX and UI. That is where you even have to worry, not the design itself. So yes, follow those guidelines. The way they said, don't place your button this way. Please, just know it and make sure anytime you are designing, don't place your button like that. For instance, you can't have two primary buttons on the same screen. You are confusing the person. Because every screen you design, you need to understand, every screen you design as a UI UX designer is optimized for something. Yeah, Mr. David, yes, stick to it. Sticking to it is not hard. It's just as simple as what I'm going to explain to you later. So again, don't overwhelm yourself by trying to put Google design principle one side and Figma one side and trying to make sure everything is working like that. No, I'm just going to show you what you need to do, okay? So so you need to understand, every screen you design is to take out one purpose, right? Let me give you an example. Let's come in here. Who can tell me, as you are designing, everyone can see my Figma screen, right? Now, as you are designing on this screen, do you know that there is one action, one primary action you might want to carry out on this screen aside designing? One action, it's not two. And that action is to share this design for other people to, join in. And that is why if you take a look at that share button, it is using the primary color and it is well pronounced. No other function is having this color right here. It is Figma's primary color. They did this because on this screen, they understood that the most important thing you want to do after designing is to share this design. It is not to eat it or to save it inside your phone. It's to share it for people to view. And that is why they've made this share. Exactly, Mr. Precious Samuel. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. Wheel itself don't cost. If you want to reinvent it, you will go broke. Okay? So, the primary thing here is to share. Now, let's take a look at another thing here. Let's go to google.com. Now, when you come to google.com, the primary thing here is to search. And most people search using the enter key, especially on desktop. And that is why right now you've seen that there are no primary buttons here, because once you finish typing, you hit your enter key. But when it comes to ghost buttons and secondary buttons, you can actually mix them. You can see these are like secondary or ghost buttons. They are not primary buttons. Okay, let's take a look at another website. Let's go to somewhere like Amazon.com. Although this might be quite, let's go to Shopify. Okay, let's come to Amazon.com. What is, okay, enter a character you see. Okay, they are like, this one never visited us before. Why is he coming today? I mean, won't come hack us. Now, let's take a look at this Shopify landing page. On this landing page, on the hero section, there is one thing, there is one action they want you to take, right? There is one action they want you to take. And that is why you can see that action clearly staring at you on the face. And that action is start free trial. Start free trial. You can see it here, you can see it here. Now, for their ghost button, like their ghost button, they want you to also click on it. But that is not the primary thing they want you to do. And that is why if you now look further, you can now see it right here that says watch Shopify story. You can see the way they've separated it. Now, you are not expected to come and put start free trial, then watch Shopify story with the same type of button. Please, Edakun, don't do that. Right? Now, if you keep scrolling, you keep scrolling, you keep scrolling, I'm looking at a place where they have buttons again. So we can see how to use buttons basically. Now, let's take a look at this section. You can see the same thing. This section is also optimized for one thing, to get you to start using Shopify. And that's why they have that buttons there. Okay? So it's important you understand these things about button. Okay? We have 10 minutes to start taking your question and answering some of those questions that you asked. So I hope I've made it clear. Okay, great. Now let's take a look at this. Let's take a look at this section now, where we have two buttons. Okay? So let's take a look at these two sections. Here they said, we are showing you items that ship to Nigeria. To see items that ship to different country, change your delivery address. Amazon, what if I'm in the US and I'm just, claiming to be in Nigeria? What is this? Anyway, you can see this right here is an example of, it's an adaptive feature. I won't say design right now. It's an adaptive feature. So they somehow encoded a system that can detect my location. And based on my location, it will show me even things in my location. So it will not go and show me something I will order now, and I'll bring it to Nigeria, and maybe it will not work. Okay? Or some things that will not ship to Nigeria. Now, let's take a look at this thing here. Let me zoom in. Let's take a look at this. We are showing you items that ship to Nigeria, blah, blah, blah. Now we can see two buttons right here. One says don't change. One says change address. This particular small screen. Now, these are some of the things you'll be designing. You'll be asked to design as an entry-level designer. The truth is, the job actually is easier than getting the job. So that's why we want to take our time, teach you, and also teach you how to get these jobs. When you eventually get this job, I can assure you it's even easier, except you meet a company that is directly from hell. Then they will show you small shege. You'll be designing by 3 a.m., sleep for 4 hours and continue designing. But we hope you get some of the best companies out there. Now, these are some of the things you might be asked to design. All this type of onboarding tips. Now, here we have two buttons. You can see that there is an intent for this particular tool here, this particular tooltip. There is an intent, and that intent is one thing. They are trying to tell me to change my address if I would like to see the US version. That is why they've used that one. They've made that one the primary button. They use the primary for that. And they've used this ghost button to create don't change. Don't go and use change address. Don't go and use the same primary button to design the don't change button. No, don't do that. And then in positioning, okay? Now, learn this thing now. In positioning things, the primary action or the primary button should be last. It's always good like that. And I'll tell you why. The primary button should always be last when you want to position things. Reason being that there is a principle we are going to learn later this week. That principle simply said that people tend to remember things, the last thing, when they are looking at a list. They tend to remember the last one. Okay? When they are looking at the list, they tend to remember the last one, not the first one. And that is why you always place your primary buttons, like where you have two options, so not when you have it one. In a screen where you have it like two options, you might want to make the primary one the second one and not the first one. Okay? This gives people a more way to click on it. So you have to understand this. So yeah, so those principles you are seeing there, they are not too much. If you can read that article once or twice, you should be okay. Every other thing is in practice. Okay? I think that's basically everything we did. So you should know that every screen is optimized for something in UI design. Okay, every screen is optimized for something. So let's go back. And we took a look at how to also create simple form inputs, and I can assure you by Monday you are going to be designing your first full screen. We want you guys to rest today, and tomorrow, Monday, we grind again, right? It's very important, and I can assure you, if you can just give it this, if you can just give this 2 hours every day, Monday to Friday, your design career will actually take off in a very comfortable way. Now let me go to Figma. So if you have Figma specific questions, please start throwing them in. We have barely 30 minutes to round up. The first one, what is the difference between auto layout and grouping? Now, auto layout and grouping. What is the difference between auto layout and grouping? I'm going to try my best to answer some of these questions, especially the very important ones. So someone says, what's the difference between auto layout and grouping? And as usual, I'll not just tell you the difference, I'll also give you instances. Because sometimes when you answer questions without giving instances, some people don't just get it, right? Now, auto layout deals with layout design. But the truth is, before auto layout, okay, before Figma's auto layout feature, everybody used to group. Everybody have been grouping before auto layout feature. But when auto layout feature came out, people started using it for layout purposes, not for grouping items. People still group items. So let's assume I want to design this. Let's bring this back. Let's assume I want to design this, okay? Let's assume I want to design this particular thing here. So I'm just going to copy that. Okay, I'm going to copy it. And let me come in here and design. Let me paste the text. And let me go back there. So let's assume I want to redesign this. Auto layout will be best to design this because this is a layout. Okay, this is a layout. So all what I need to do is to pick my text tool. Okay. Sorry, I'm trying to get that. Okay. So all I need to do is I've gotten this now. Okay, I've gotten this. Now I have this and I have two buttons. Okay, I have this, then I have two buttons. What do I do to create my buttons? Remember, I just need to stay type in what I want, don't change. Okay, and for this, I'm going to add an auto layer to this to create the buttons. Okay, I want you to be seeing the design while we are working on it, but since that will not work, so let me go ahead to create my button. After typing, I'll do Shift A to add the layout. Now the spacing here, you see this spacing? If you see this now, you see this spacing here, this spacing from here to here is what we call padding. This spacing from here to here is what we call padding. Okay, so this is padding, this spacing, and also from here to here, this spacing, top, bottom, is what we call padding. So know that. So another mistake most people make, especially designers that are just starting, is you design your button, you see that the button is not breathing, and you go ahead to share it with people and say, I don't design. Please, pity them, let the design breathe. Okay, so you want to have padding. So for the padding, let me follow our design system guide. We are going to use 16 right there, right? And for top and bottom, we are going to use 8. Okay, and for the hog, for the corner radius, let's take a look at 8 there. And for this particular one, the way they've done it, they've given it a color black. The text is color black. Okay, the text there is color black, and the frame there is color white. They've given the frame a white color. Okay, white color. And then for the outline, for the stroke, they've given it a gray color. Okay, gray color. Let's go with this gray 500. Right? So this is what they have here. And for, since you are watching from different devices, let me make it 700, but it's not actually 700. As you can see, it's very light. So let me duplicate this now. I'm just trying to answer that question. Let me duplicate this now. So for the secondary one, for the primary button, they've used yellow. We are going to use our own yellow. I don't want us to start importing colors right here. Right? Let me go and choose our own yellow. Let me say yellow 400. Okay, and the font inside, they've used white. And then the outline too. I can remove the outline actually. I don't know why my outline is not removing, but let me just give it this same yellow so we don't waste time. Now, for the person that said they can't find the outline per side, just click here, okay? If you click here, you can see the stroke side, and click on here. Click on this icon, the outline icon right here. You are going to see all this. Now, anyone you choose will appear, but if you want to customize it, you have to choose custom. So custom gives you an option of, entering how many you want on the left, how many you want on the top, how many you want on the right, and how many you want at the bottom. Okay, so you have to click here and choose these settings that says custom, or you can go to all. So basically, now you have these two things here, this button and this button. Now, usually what we do before auto layout is to select these two, right, and then push them here and group. But since these three things are part of one big component, the best thing to do is to use auto layout so that you can actually manage the spacing more effectively. Because if I should group it, let me say I group these ones. Let me come here. Let me group them. Okay? Let me group them. I'm just going to duplicate this. Now, let's select these ones. And first of all, let's select these two and then group, Ctrl G, right? Ctrl G to group. Then let me select the three of them now. Ctrl G to, okay, let me even be more merciful. Let me use this to determine the line spacing. Let me put that line spacing there at 36. Let's use 24. Let me put that line spacing there as 24. I think my 36 is actually better. Okay, 32, sorry, 32. Okay, because 24 plus 8 is 32. Now, let me group this, and also let me come here and choose, for these ones, the space between them. I've already grouped them. Now, let me select this, and now group again. Ctrl G. Then I go ahead to add a frame because I want a background, right? You can see there's a background there. There's a white background there. Let me give this a color, black. You can see there's a white background. What I'll end up doing is to now take this frame and draw over them to, have the white background. But the problem with this is this now. I have to start manually trying to add these paddings. You see this padding right here. Okay, this padding right here. I'm going to manually try to find a way to start adjusting this padding. Usually, before auto frame, people use what we call block method to get this padding. So you draw a shape a rectangle of a specific size, maybe 8 or 12 for your spacing, then anytime you are designing, you bring it close to it and then make sure that these things are now touching. Then you know that, okay, that spacing is fine. Now, would you rather do that? Let's convert this to cover. Let's add a border radius here too. Let's say 8. Now, would you rather this? Or would you just rather want a situation whereby we select these two, we add auto frame, Control A. Now it has given us auto frame, and there is a way, a systematic way to adjust the size. We select these two again. Now we are selecting these two first. Before, let me Control Z. Now watch, when you are doing your Control A, it's important to understand layouts. You see these two, they are going to be at the bottom. We want them to be at the bottom. So what will happen is, if you select these three at once and do Control A, it's going to put them in one row. Sorry, Shift A. It's going to put them, it's not adjusting them the way we want. Let me do this, okay. 1, 2, 3. So it's not adjusting them properly. Now, if I take this, for instance, now, if I do this like this, you can see what we are having here. If I do this like this, you can see what we are having. So it's only when you take flow that flow will arrange it for you. But right now, what I want you to do is, before you do anything, you should understand how you want to arrange your items before you do Shift A, right? Now, for this, we want this and this to be at the bottom, and this one to remain at the top. So I'm going to select this and this. Then I'll add an auto layout, Shift A. Once I've done that, I can now use this to specify the setting, the distance, the spacing I need. I can say the spacing should be 16, right? Because I want them very different. Now I can select these two now and do Shift A again for my auto layouts. So from here, I can manually change this to 32. Right? Now this auto layout, I can come and add that padding. So that padding now, I can now say left and right should be 32. Okay? Then top, bottom should also be 32. Now, I can eventually come in here and give that auto frame a color. Let me select this back and make it black. Okay? So give it a color there, give it a corner radius of 8. Now you can see with this, let me go ahead and make here 24, left and right 24. Okay, great. And I'm just trying to make sure it looks closer to what we have. Okay, great. So it's closer to what we have right here. Now you can see that this one, though they look the same, but this one is more easier to change than this. Reason being that when I should resize this one, although I've not done the auto frame property, you can see that everything is like shaking and moving. Unlike if I say, let me resize this, see what happens. Okay? So that's the essence of auto frame. So you use auto frame whenever you are doing a layout work. Okay? Not grouping them. Now, when do you group? If you are doing illustrations, if you are doing an illustration or you are just doing some designs that you are going to use for the background, maybe you are trying to draw things in icon. When you are working with icons, you can always group things. Icons, you don't need auto frame for icons because those things are even tiny. Okay, the only time you need use auto frames in icon is when you want to maybe represent maybe notifications or things like that. That's where you can start using auto frame for icon. But when you are making illustrations or designs that are just going to be for the background, right? Let's assume I want to create a blob, right? Let's assume I'm working on a design and I need a blob, right? I'm sure you know what a blob is. Let's assume I'm working on this design and I need like a gradient blob, right? Now, like I said, I will teach you people how to do these things realistically, not to overstress you guys. You can come and start. Let me show you what a blob is. This is a blob, right? In UI design blob illustrations. Now, these are called blobs. You see all these things? They are called blobs in UI design. You see them used to decorate pages and landing pages and screens. You see people adding them to screens. Okay, these are called blobs. Now, as you are just starting, please I'm begging you, I'm pleading, okay, don't start trying to design this. No, you waste your time and energy and you will give up. Instead, you come in here, you go to your Figma plugin and you type blob. You type blob, you see things there. Make blob, gradient blob generator. A lot of them are there for you to use for free. If I want gradient blob, I just click on run. Right? Once I click on run, it's going to launch that blob for me. You can see. If I'll be targeting it. I'll just click on insert. That particular blob will just, be generated for me. Now, let me drag it in. I need another one. Okay. Let's assume I need another one. I've deleted this. Insert. Okay. Let me move it. Now, insert again. Another color don't come. Insert, clear road. Now, let me take this 3 for now. Now, I could have waited for the animation to be very blobby before I continue. But now, let me show you something. Let's assume I want to mix these things like this. I want to mix it like this. Let me remove all of them. Let me remove them from their frames. Let me remove them from their frames. I don't want those frames. Now, let's assume I want to mix these things. I want to say, okay, let this one come here. Let me reorder it to the top, bring to front. Let's assume I want to mix this like this. Bring to front. Now, let's assume I want to mix this like this, okay? And use it for my design. And maybe I just want to select these 3 now, okay? And use it for my design. You can see these 3 items. They are not the same, but so what you don't want to do for things like this, don't add auto frame. For things like this, they are purely decorative. It is not a layout. It is not a layout. You are just trying to place things on top of each other. What you can do in this case is to group them, Ctrl G, and then you can come and name it blob. You are not auto-framing them. So this is when you use group. So if it is just items, they are not layouts, illustrations, things like this, you just use it and then you call it group. Now, if I now want to bust your head, you can now come in, add a little bit of that our primary 900 here, select this thing now, go to your effect. Please don't do this, I'm just trying to show off, okay? But we'll get to this stage. So I can now choose layer blur, increase this maybe around 100, and I can now drag this and put this somewhere here. And I can create this type of effect. Okay, so although this would have been better if they were if the colors match more, but remember you can make it to match anyhow you want. Okay, but I'm just trying to show you something here. You can see that I didn't create this blob from scratch, because if you want to start using your pen tool at this stage to start creating these blobs, you are going to waste a whole lot of time. So this is when you use group. This should be group, not auto layout. Okay, that's by the way. So let me move this away. Let me also put this here, and we also have this here. Okay, I'm going to take another question. Our closing time is fast approaching. So can I use group instead of auto layout? Mr. John. So can I use group instead of auto layout? Use it only when necessary. When you are working on a layout, right, on a UI layout, maybe a card design, a website layout, use auto layout. It will be better for you. But when you are just working like on illustrations or something just for background, something like illustrations, you don't use auto layout for illustrations. If not, you get tired. You don't use auto layout for illustrations. For those ones, you use grouping. Okay. So throw more light on the different types of layout. I think that one you have to read more, okay? But if you are in the guided assistance, you can call in. You can schedule a call, and I will attend to you personally. Sir, if I'm doing a task on Figma and I make a mistake, how do I undo it? I think someone answered that. Control Z. Okay, Control Z. That's when you do that. That's how you do that. Now, someone said, how do you determine the font to use for a project? Like I said, don't overstress yourself or overkill yourself. Any company you are going to work for, they already have a font. They already have colors. So they will give you fonts to use. Now, let's assume you want to do a personal project, right? If you want to do a personal project, please, I'm going to give you guys 3 fonts to always use before you go and activate your village people when no one may start this design career, okay? If you notice, the font we are using is called Poppins. Okay? Ngozi Onyema, let me go and show off to my. So the font we are using is Poppins. You see these Poppins? It's always popping. I like the name. Pop, always pop. Right? The font is very clear. What you should be concerned about when it comes to font, it is legibility. The legibility. Poppins, you can never go wrong with Poppins. Okay? Then, aside Poppins, I'll give you these 3 fonts later, but let me just mention it. You can never go wrong with Poppins. You can never go wrong with Enter. You see Enter. Enter is on that list. Poppins, Enter, and maybe if you want to confuse your enemies small, or you want to show them you know a lot of fonts, you can use something called Pulse Jakarta. You can even see from the name, if you mention it to your client, they will add more money for you. Right, they will know that this our designer is directly from India and not a Nigerian-based designer, so they'll add more money. Anyway, I'm just joking. So these 3 fonts, please, if you are here, any design you want to work on, concentrate on Poppins for now. Forget fonts. Font is not what you want to spend your early days in design worrying about. Okay. Someone asks, please, can you explain the difference between responsive and adaptive design? I think I already explained that, and I said a summary is that responsive grid target device screens, while adaptive designs target device type. Okay. What are the examples of web apps? I know mobile and website, but I can't get my. Okay, now web apps. Example are progressive web apps. Okay, web apps are basically, let's say if you want to design a solution now, okay, the normal way is done is that you are going to design the web version, and then you design the mobile version. And in fact, when you get to the mobile version, you will have to design for Android platform and iOS platforms. But then people came up with this idea of, since every phone runs on can run Chrome, right? That's Google Chrome. So a lot of these web apps are basically on Chrome. They are basically running inside Chrome. So these these web apps, instead of you designing 3 different apps for one solution, you can deploy them as a web app so that people can access it on different platforms. Okay. Example: Facebook is a web app. Okay. It's not a website. It's not an app. It's a web app. Another example: your Slack. Slack is a web app. That's why most of them, they always need internet before they can function. But when you talk of native apps, like your calculator does not need internet to work. The same thing as your camera. Your camera does not need internet to work. Okay? So native apps don't need, most times they don't need internet to work. Also, when you download some games, if you play game on mobile phones here, you remember when games used to be 2 gig. Some used to be 10 gig. Now, if you download all those games, if you download game of 3 gig, 4 gig, if it's a native app, it's going to be heavier because at any time you want to play the game, all the resources is going to be loading from your phone, from your phone's memory, right, and storage. But then with web apps, some of these things are processed in the cloud. So you might just have to download the app, maybe 5 or 50 MB. 50 MB will just be basically for the UI, right? And then the whole thing that makes up that app is running in the cloud and delivering via the internet. So if you don't have internet, it won't work. Okay. Can you make a video on how to understand hierarchical layout? I think we are actually 10 minutes away from closing. If I answer all these questions and I still have time, I will do that. But if you're on guided assistance, send a message or book a time, right? Book a time so that you can have a one-on-one explanation on this. But like I said, this training is not just targeted at you making payments. It's completely free. So some of these questions, we'll still answer them in a later session, okay? We are just working with time for now. Now, someone asks, John asks, also the typography number, when creating style, we added 2 for the body text and 4 for the head text. What is the technique behind that? At this stage, Mr. or Mrs. Shinai or John, leave the technique behind anything for now. When you understand how to do it, if you can do it, you will understand the technique right now, right? This question is just like, you register for a driving lesson and the person is telling you, you match brake if you want to stop, you match accelerate if you want to move. Then you now tell the person, what makes it move? I want to understand. Trust me, the instructor will let you know that he's not a mechanic at that point or an engineer, right? Same thing with at this level. Not that I don't know the difference, okay? At this level, I want you to focus more on those numbers. And on our advanced UI class, we will now explain the technique behind it. Because right now, any customer or any client reaching out to you for you to design for them, it's not going to tell you, hello, please, can you tell me the technicalities behind the website? I want to understand how websites work. Okay? No. Instead, the client is calling you to say, please, can you design a website for an NGO? Your answer should be yes. You design it. Then, as long as the man visits the domain and the website is showing, shikina, right? The only time is maybe in the future when they are experiencing technical features. That's when the man will now call and say, this is our website that is always doing this and doing that. What can we do? But for now, understand know how to do this thing. Do it first. Later on, we will talk about the technicalities behind it. Please, how do we understand these platforms, e.g. TV or wearable devices? Do we study similar products or we follow their laid down design principles? For the awesome questions. Again, no matter how spiritual you are, these things will not come to you like a vision in the dream. Okay? It could, but it will not happen to everybody. Okay? All you need to do is to go to those platforms, read their specifications and their guideline. Okay? For instance, Facebook VR design guideline. So here I have the Facebook design guideline. I'm looking for the one for developers. Okay. The same thing, both for Apple, both for iOS. If you come here, you can see where they wrote general UX and safety. This is from years of research and billions of dollars spent. Please click here if it is what you are now interested in to learn the general UX. Don't get tired. Read here. You can see how user input works. You can see how locomotion works. You understand how hand tracking works. So this is where you learn the principles of all these things before you can now go and start designing. But right now, please and please, don't come here today. Don't come here tomorrow. Don't come here this year. Don't come here next 6 months or 1 year. Learn and practice the basics and get a good fundamentals of design before coming here. I'm pleading. I am begging you. Okay? Thank you. The next question. Please give us explanation on hierarchical layouts. This hierarchical layout. Okay, this is 54. We just have 6 minutes to go. I would have actually liked to talk on this hierarchical layouts. The way you keep asking this question. Okay. let me see, maybe we'll start with hierarchical layout next live session, okay, so that you can really grasp it. But I'll advise you to also do a little research before next session. Okay, another question here, please, what are the things we really need to understand in order to succeed in UI UX design? The things you need to understand is to understand human being, okay? To understand human being. Understand yourself, because you are the first user of any product. After understanding yourself, as you are designing, one of the things I tell most of my students is, as you are designing, once you've designed a screen, ask yourself some questions. Ask yourself, have I seen this type of screen anywhere before? You are looking at it, you are seeing your button is not breathing, no space. Ask yourself, all the buttons I've been seeing in my lifetime on different applications, do they look like what I have here? If it is color, you ask yourself, this color that I've used now, that is blinding me and is not allowing me to breathe well, have I seen where they mix this kind of color before? If your answer is no, you can now go and you can open a similar app on your phone, and at that point, just use what they've used. For the most part of your UI design, the backgrounds are going to fall within neutral colors. So please, save the pink and green combinations for later. Save it for later, please. For your background, use all those neutral gray colors, okay? And then for your buttons, use the primary colors. Those places you want to drive actions, use the primary colors for now, okay? So one of the things you need to understand to succeed is understanding yourself first. Then you understand things like colors, things like typography, things like spacing. Spacing, very, very important. So these are the basic things you need to understand. Please, if you can hear me, drop those emoji, heart emoji, so I know that everyone is hearing me. And second to the last question, platform and design system overview. I had to study the Google Material Design, and I saw the rules by which they design. Yeah, great. My question is, from the creating of forms, what was the last task we did? Can we have a listed procedure to follow to make it easier? Lay emphasis. Okay, so for that one, if you just go back and watch that video, you can write out the procedures. The procedure, basically, like I told you guys, whenever you are creating a component, the most important thing is to, first of all, think about everything you will need in that component. Think about everything. If it's a form, you are looking at things like the label, okay? Let me just check a form here. Let's take a look at form here. I'm trying to see a form. Okay, let me click on this start trial, okay? They will think that someone wants to subscribe. They'll be happy. They don't know that we are just learning. I don't like this type of forms. I'm just starting. I'm looking for a better form that will give us... I don't like this type of form. They don't catch me. Let me just go to a normal website. Which normal website would I go to now? Let's take a look at maybe... website. I don't know. Website just skipped my head right now. Let me just search real estate website. Let's just take this first one. These people think that we want to buy real estate. Sorry, we are just learning, but at least we're also giving you publicity. Let me go to contact. Now, you have to envisage a lot of things. This contact is very basic. It's just form. You have to envisage, like I told you guys, this particular thing here is called a label, okay? The name, where you have name, is a label. Where you have your name, you can see once I type, it goes away. That place, that thing, that your name there in gray is called a placeholder. And it alternates. Once I type, it goes away and my value comes in, okay? But we're also taking a look at what if you want to do some validations on the form. Maybe you type your password and it's not correct. You notice that they will always tell you your password is incorrect, right? We anticipated all that for what we want to do, and then we used it to build the form component. You now find out that when we start using the form, it's just going to be a case of hiding what we don't need. For instance, if we want name, this name alone, we are going to hide all those feedback, hide all those icons and the rest, and use it like that. But when we need a form that has an icon, we now activate icon. We do it like that so that it's not when you get to a point when you need an icon, a form with an icon, you will now go and start bringing in icon to that one. The form will not be forming. It will not form. Okay? It will form, but it will not form well. Okay? Lay emphasis on the different types of button and how to use them. I think I just answered this using the Amazon design we just did. We talked about primary buttons, secondary buttons, ghost buttons, fab buttons. I think we created a link for that. But the most important button in any design is the primary button. Just like on this contact form, the primary thing they want us to do is to fill this and send. And that's why they are using their primary color right there, okay? They are not using a ghost button. Now, when you come here, where am I? Okay, they are not using a ghost button for that particular kind of design. Now, there is something here that some of you will say and be like, now, oh my God, did I just close this? Let me refresh. So that's a bad UX. It's a bad UX. It's a bad UX. It's a bad UX. Oh, buddy. Okay, I wanted to show you guys something. Okay, so, and on mobile phones, there is something called FAB, floating action button. Let's take a look at this. On mobile phones, you mostly drive action with what you call FAB, okay? Primary action with what you call FAB. That FAB simply means floating icon button. So you can see buttons like this, buttons you want people to easily access, irrespective of any screen they are on, the primary button there. So we also have FAB buttons, so they are different from the primary action button, okay? You use them most times for create, okay? Create. A lot of people use it for apps that have create, like recipe add. You can use FAB buttons to drive the option of maybe adding, to-do list, right? To-do list. You use that FAB action to control actions like adding a to-do list, okay? I think we've come to the end of this live session. Last question. On my Figma account, I don't have access to side stroke. Okay, I think I showed you how to do that. If you still don't have access to it, look well, it's there. Figma did not create your own difference for you because you are from Nigeria. Anyway, that's a joke. But look where you are going to see it there. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, so we've come to the end of this live session. I hope you learned something. The essence of this is you need to, we want you to learn something anytime you attend either this class or any of the UI class, okay? But I'm going to give us 5 more minutes. So if you have any question, please drop it now within the next 5 minutes so I can attend to them. Please drop it within the next 5 minutes so I can attend to them. And if in 5 minutes we don't have any other questions, we'll go ahead and end the live stream. And if you still want to join the guided assistance, you can just click on make payments on your dashboard, make payment and join. Now, if you have the money, don't be a stingy person. If you have the money, you make the payment. If you don't have the money, please make sure you attend all your classes. And we want to make sure that there is no much difference between these two platforms, because like I said, this training is not free. Despite the fact that we called it free, it's not free, okay? Some people paid for it just to make sure the impact on young upcoming designers, okay? Yes, the live is going to be available to be streamed later, but one thing about live is, it's always more interactive when you are asking the questions. Now, size of hero section. Hero section, you have 2 sizes, custom size and full screen size? So that is a very good question, although it's not what we're supposed to answer now, but I'll answer it. Hero section is basically two types: full screen or custom size. And a lot of people use full screen. Now let's go to this. For the Shopify, if you open any website and the entire hero section is covering your screen, that means they are using full screen. And their program and their coding, they use what you call device height. They didn't enter a dimension for the height. They just said device height. That means even if you open it on phone, it's going to cover the entire viewport of your phone. If you open it on watch, it's going to cover the entire viewport of your watch. If you want, open it on TV, it's going to cover the entire viewport of your TV. A very good example of that is Apple.com. I don't know if they've changed it. You know, they change their design always. But once you visit Apple.com, okay, I think they've changed it. But once you visit Apple.com, this place, I know. Once you visit Apple.com, they want me to go to Nigerian version. Once you open Apple.com, the screen this covers your entire screen, but now it's different. But we have two types, okay? We have two types. Let me go to Figma so you can understand. So if I'm designing a website, for instance, and I click on my frame, okay? If I'm using desktop, if I want that design to cover the person's entire screen, that means I'm doing all my designs here. All my design is going to be here, as this is going to be what? My landing page. And then every other thing comes beyond the fold, okay? But let me do Control D. If I want it to be a particular size, now that particular size, there is no standard. It depends on your content, okay? It depends on your content. But please, don't go and use 5.3 or point something. Point is very difficult for front-end engineers to code, okay? So don't use that. Just follow our 8-point grid. If I come in here, I can now say, okay, you know what? The height should be maybe, let's say 8 times 40. Okay, this can be 320. Let me give it another color. Okay, so I'll make sure the width covers everywhere. The 320 is quite, you are looking from 5 something upwards, so you might have to do with 580. You can see 580 or 6. Just make sure it's divisible by 8. Okay, just make sure it's divisible by 8. And like I said again, it depends on the content, whereby you want to give these people this immersive. One thing about full screen is that full screen gives you an immersive experience. Imagine you are designing for a car brand, right? And then you just want, when people visit the website, they should start buying already. What you can do is to just, the entire screen, you target the entire screen and put a very well shot video of that car. So you can see your design, your content must not always be text and graphics. Sometimes it's a video of the car, someone just driving and cruising it. Then you just add like a small black overlay, and then you put your 2 buttons, learn more. Because nobody will just sit and click buy now, except you want to deceive yourself. You put something like learn more, or contact a sales agent to talk to you about this thing, right? So it's by the time they learn more. Cars, expensive things don't always have buy now. Yeah, if you go to where they sell aeroplane, you won't see buy now button everywhere, right? But when you are talking of cheap things, phones and the rest, people want to buy. But when it comes to expensive things, even house, you hardly see a house where they sell house and you see buy now. Instead, people want to make inquiry first before they invest their money into it. Okay, thank you very much, David. Please, how do we reuse an asset created on one project for another project? We've not reached that part yet, but you can just copy and paste, but it's not, the life of that asset is never going to remain the same again. So we'll do that when we talk about exporting your designs. But for now, please, you can recreate or you can just copy and paste, okay? Copy and paste or you recreate. So that's how you reuse it. Copy it from one file. You can see how we reuse those components now. Those icons. Instead of creating those icons from scratch, we copied it from that file and pasted in our own file. And we started forming bad guys that we now have fonts. We now have icons to work with. You did not answer my question. I asked twice. Material, color, UI design process. Okay, that one I think is very important. Please, if you missed it, it's very easy. The first thing I said you should do is to get a color. To get a color, don't overbeat yourself. We'll teach you how to generate color in the advanced UI class, right? But just visit Material UI color, okay? And we use this website. Where's that website we use? Material UI colors, okay? We used this website. We used this website basically. And then what we did was that we came to this website. You can see different colors. These colors, they are okay for any design, okay? Don't overdo. If you want a red kind of color, there's red. If you want blue, there's blue. If you want purple, there's purple. Don't overdo. So from here, let's say we want to use purple right now. You come here, you choose your purple, how light you want it. You remember, you just want to choose your primary color. And remember, we are using material color. If you want flat UI color, you click here, it will give you flat UI color. If you want social, but please, if you want tailwind, you go. But please, maintain material for now, I'm begging you. So you pick one. Let's say we want something. Now for your primary color, you want something rich, something a little bit rich. Don't go and use this light one for your primary color. If you use this light one for your primary color, it will have accessibility issues, okay? So you want something a little bit rich, something from this 500 or 600 down, okay? So for me, I'm going to say, okay, maybe this 600. Now I've copied the color. If I come here, I can just give it, paste it here as a reference. Now to generate the shades of this color, okay? To generate shades of this color, what I can now do, instead of me trying to come and do it manually, I'll go to my Figma plugin, okay, run the plugin and look for color generator. Now if you type color generator, you are going to see a lot of them, but we are still going to see that one that we used. My internet is so you can see the foundation color generator. There are other ones there, right? But we used foundation color generator. Now if you had used Tailwind, Tailwind is a CSS framework that front-end designers use in apps like React. People that use React to develop their app, they use Tailwind. So if you have a knowledge that what you are going to be designing is going to be developed with Tailwind, just come and choose colors from the Tailwind color palette, okay? So but we are using material design, so it's better to just use foundation. Then you run it. You run this foundation UI, right? Foundation color generator. Once you run it, it's going to ask you which profile. Let me zoom in. It's going to ask you which profile. So from here, I can now choose on material. Okay? It only has fourth profile, Orbit, Atlassian, Material, and Ant. So I'm going to choose material. And it's going to ask me what is the color I wish to generate shades for. I can just come here, copy it, right? And paste it. Once I paste it, it's going to generate it for me easily. And the main color I pasted is going to be on 500. So instead of leaving this thing as violet 500, you can type in primary. It makes more sense. Primary, or if it is your secondary, if it is your accent, you type in accent. It just gives it a semantic meaning. It's not a whole stuff. Now, with this, you've generated the shades for all this. You repeat the same process for your secondary, for your accent, for your neutrals, okay? You repeat the same thing. Now, if you don't want to even worry much on neutrals, you can click on tones, right? If you click on tones, where is it? Okay, I think material doesn't have it. I think the other one have shades. It can give you the gray shades, okay? Now, once you've done this, you can go ahead and click on create styles. Create styles, we add this to your style guide, okay? If you click on create styles, it will add it to your style guides directly. But if you want it to provide you with a box with the names, you click on palette. It will now give you this box with the names, okay, for documentations. But if you notice, we didn't do this because we used another app, another plugin to run the documentations. Okay, so that's it. I think I've spent more time. I've spent more than 2 hours now. So we are going to call it a day. I hope you learned quite a lot. You learned something at least today. And please, Monday, tomorrow you rest, right? As you are resting, try dreaming about your designs and all the things we'll be doing. It helps a lot. Try dreaming about them. Think about it. Dream about it. You get more inspiration. Monday is another day. We go again. Okay? If you want more personalized questions that can be answered for you, you know, anytime you want to get more quick, dedicated assistance, you can subscribe to the guided assistance. Remember, it's just 10,000. It's not monthly. It's for the duration of the course. So you can ask all the whole questions you want. Okay? That's it from me, guys. Good night, and we'll do this again next week, Saturday. And see you guys. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.